Poddin My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Poddin My Noggin. I'm your host, CK Sims, still CK Sims. We are joined today with a woman who knows how to dress a room. Miss or Mrs., I'm not sure. Amy Barrickman. Did I say that?
Hello. I'm Mrs., but I'll take either. Ms.,
Mrs.
Miss,
There you
whatever
go.
it is. Hi. I'm so happy to be chatting with you.
I am happy to be chatting with you as well. I went and found myself just popping over to your website every now and then when I needed a little boost.
Aw.
Um, I like pretty things, right? So, the really interesting part about what you do speaks to me as a human, right? Because, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But so for anybody who's actually at home, Amy is an author,
Yes,
an interior designer.
that's
She
right.
is a wife, and she is a mother,
I am.
and she is this and this and this, and she's multi hyphenate, if you
Many
will.
hats.
Yes, many hats, as every woman has to wear. It's not even a
That's right.
choice,
All
right?
people, yes.
It's the situation. So, you reached out and you talked about where this sort of all started. And so I think for the audiences at home, let's start there. Like, let's go
Right.
back to what was life like before children for you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know that I remember back that far. Or maybe I blocked it out. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean life is great, but I definitely was dealing with some anxiety in my
Mhm.
life. And I was working in a job that, while lucrative, was not speaking to me. And this is what I love about you and your show is it's all about what speaks to you. It's all about what kind of makes your soul content. And I found myself with this job in pharmaceutical sales, which was a very good job that my husband and family were very happy that I had, but I wasn't happy. And even though I was doing well, I wasn't happy. So I went back to the drawing board, so to speak, to find my passion. And I discovered interior design, which I absolutely love, still enjoy doing. But at the time, not everyone was super thrilled about me giving up this like really great lucrative job to go start a job that was completely unknown. So, but I had to do it. I
No,
had
and
to.
that's fair, right? And you're right. The show does talk about connecting to what it is you do. And like, that's such, I feel like there's so many people in this world that could totally relate with what you just said, right? You're in a lucrative position, you're pulling in the money, you do well at the role, but you're not pulling anything, any sort of fulfillment or sustainability from it. And then I find what people don't realize is that's a lot harder because you are doing well, right? But then you're like, shit, well,
Right.
I'm sorry for swearing. But sugar, I'm not happy and all of those things. So the amount of
Exactly.
pressure we put on ourselves then is just paramount. So
I'm so glad you said that because it's easy to leave a job where you're maybe not doing well or you want to make more money or whatever it may be. It's much easier to leave. And this is not to say, oh, boo-hoo. Like it was there were great things about that. But if your heart does not go pitter-patter, then it's going to be hard to have as a long-term career.
well, because it's a
So,
chore. Like
yeah,
you're putting energy into something that feels dead to you, essentially.
right.
Like you're getting a paycheck, but there's no spark, there's no life. And while
Exactly.
maybe we're not always going to be lucky to say work in a job where every day there's pitter patter, but if you don't find some sort of fulfillment from it, then it's just a paycheck, right?
Exactly.
So you were in this role as before being a mom? Okay.
Mhm.
So then you became a mom. And you
Well, I
found
was
it.
lucky to start just before I became a mom. I
Okay.
started my business. And that was good because it would have been much more challenging after. But I'll tell you one thing, and I know you already know this. Look, no one gets stuff done like a mom, right?
Mm.
Like, no offense, and really parents in general, but when you find yourself all of a sudden in this situation where you have a new baby, you're nursing, you're doing all this, you you expand time. You find a way to expand time. And that happened for me. I had already started my business, but it was growing and I wanted to keep it growing. And it wasn't always easy, but of course, it was an outlet for me because as a new mom, you don't always feel like a person, right? You're kind of like
Well,
there, you're functioning for whatever reason. It was an outlet for me to feel like a real person and go meet with adults and talk about adult things, even if it was only for a couple hours a day.
so how did you discover that interior design was your thing?
Well, that's a really good question. My husband and I had lived in Manhattan and we moved to a home in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I loved this house. But in the beginning, I felt a little stuck about what to do. And I think most people can relate to this because, and this is one of the reasons I end up writing my book, which we'll get to, but when you design a room or when you decorate your own home, if you're not a professional, you do that what? 5 times, 10 times in your life, maybe. So it's so new, it's so unknown. You don't know what you're doing. Now, when a professional does it, they do it 5, 10 times in a month. So,
Hmm.
of course, there are these certain steps that we go through as professionals that how could you possibly know just as a homeowner? How, just because we buy a home, we expect to know how to be able to set it up inside, but that's unrealistic. You know, like if someone told you to build a deck, you know, okay, wood, nail gun, maybe. Like you would have an idea. Okay, the boards need to be laid out, but you would look for guidance because it's not easy to just do without any experience. And that's where I was before I found my passion. I knew that I loved this home and I knew how I wanted it to look, but I really had no idea how to put it together. So I went back
Hmm.
to school. And at that time, that was the most cost-effective way for me to get interior design help was to
So learn
start taking
yourself.
some classes.
Yeah.
So I started taking some classes thinking, well, maybe this will just help me design my own home. And then I loved it. And I thought this weird thought came to me one day and I was like, wait, what if I could make money doing this?
Mm.
Oh, it was it was a lightning bolt moment. And that's how I discovered it and kind of never turned back. I mean, I definitely looked back at the road like, should I have gone this way? But kind of didn't turn back because it was just something that got me so excited and was genuinely fun.
Well, I think that that's so important too. And if we find that, we want to hold on to that in life, to have that fun, to have that spark, that sort of thing. I love that the idea came like I love the pathway of being in a situation where you're looking around, you love the home, but not quite as it is because you had things that you wanted to do. And then you're like, well, I'll know what I'll do. I will go to school and I will learn what I need to learn to do this myself. Cost effective, but time consuming, right? So
Right,
there's a trade-off, but then you learned like new skills that you could apply to generating income and that sort of thing. So that's really a fascinating way of going about it. And so then the kids come along
then the kids come.
and you're like, okay, I'm going to have children, but I'm still going to be actively running my business. It's
Mhm.
interesting because you said, a mom can stretch time, and I do believe that. Um, I think that translates to a mom reduces herself to a conduit, if you will, of whatever's happening around them to just function, right?
Right.
Um, so, and you said that you were going through some rough times at that particular
Yes.
time, some
Oh
heavy times
yes.
at the time, and it was it was the interior design component that you started noticing impacting your moods.
Yes. Well, definitely. And I think a lot of people can relate to this, which is when you are in a space that you don't love, it you don't feel loved, right? Um, we had moved just 5 weeks after our first child was born. So I had already designed a home before she was born, and then we moved, and I was super excited about this move, but all of a sudden I found myself in a home where literally nothing was as I wanted it. And now, even though, as I said, moms can expand time, I hadn't had the time, right? I had this baby. I didn't have that luxury time of pre-kids where you can just kind of spend your evenings looking around and deciding. So I found myself in kind of a tough spot. And this was at the same time I was dealing with some postpartum depression.
Mhm.
So I found myself, I don't want to say fueled, but it was keeping me down. The way the home felt, which had not been my touches, I was living in someone else's design, it kept me in kind of a dark place. And it was absolutely redoing some things, painting some things, getting new furniture that gave me that life again and made me feel like an adult again. And that fueled the way I felt every day. Even if I wasn't an interior designer, I think we can all relate to when you see something you love. Maybe it's you went to a beautiful hotel, maybe it's in your own home, just something that makes you smile. You feel good. It
Oh,
impacts your
absolutely.
mood.
It absolutely like when you're talking, you're telling me the story, like I can totally understand. Like you're looking out into your space and you're not seeing you reflected back towards you, right? And that's where we feel like we're in darkness in that space. It's there's no room for
Absolutely.
light because we're not in it. And so I have always been, and I think I got this from my mom, because my mom has always been very particular about where things went and design choices and color schemes and stuff like that. And so, as
I
an
love her
adult,
already.
yes, and she's always been that way. And so I'll say it like it is. As a gay child growing up with a mother like this, I hung on to every word and action. So what this manifested in my adult life, when I would move into a place, the first thing I would do is scrub it and sanitize it from top to
Mhm.
bottom at like a
Right.
level that was I belonged in an institution because I'm like, there's other people ick in here. I need to get rid of that ick so that I can
Yes.
then
And make it
leave my home.
yours.
Make it mine, exactly. And so, like, I mean, as an adult, I'm 43 years old now. My scheme,
We're the
my
same age.
choices are we perfect.
Yeah.
My choices are monochromatic walls with really big, bold, like curtains and throw
Love.
pillows. And it's just that sort of, and I just I think when you're in a room and you can look out and smile, you smile because you like what you're seeing and it
Hmm.
feels wonderful to you. It's 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 the best one of the best feelings, right? You can thrive in that environment.
Feels so good. And
So
everyone can have it. So I think that,
everyone.
not everyone has a mother who shows them, right? And that's okay because how can all the mothers know? We can't all know. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to put together this book, which is called The Living Room Design Formula. I wanted to give people a formula that they could take a look at and follow and bring their own style, but go through the steps just as interior designers do so that they can get that great outcome. It's not about telling you what your style should be, it's about showing you how to find the things. So I love how you said that you do mostly neutrals, but then you do like a bright wall cover or bright window treatments or whatever it may be. That's what I call the star. Every room needs a star. And the star needs to be the star. So that's why you do neutrals everywhere else, so that you allow that one thing to be the thing you love and makes you happy. But then you're not also going to put some crazy color on the walls and wild things here, you're allowing your star to be the star. And that's one of the points we go through as we go through the entire process. Um, you need to find your star. You need to find the thing you love that makes you so happy, and and build your design around that.
Well, I'm fascinated to hear that there's a formula there because I'm like, like this is just, something I've realized. My approach to decorating is I want those neutrals so that if I get bored, because I do tend
Hmm.
to get bored um, with things relatively quickly. Like if they last 3 years in my house, we're lucky. So, right?
You and I are the same.
So it's like, okay, I don't have to replace all my furniture if most of my furniture are neutrals and monochromatic. I just have to, the star, I like that. I have to change the star,
Just change the star.
right? So,
Exactly.
and that's brilliant. When did you write this book?
Well, I've been compiling this book for years. Really, I've
Hmm.
been in design for 15 years, and I came up with this idea probably 2 or 3 years in, but I wasn't seasoned enough at that point to really put it together. And there is no one formula. Of course, there are many ways to attack it, but what I tried to do was go from the point of view. So many people say to me, I know what I like, but I don't know how to put it together. I thought, what if I could just give them a path to put it together? Now, this is
Hmm.
not to say that everyone picks the this before the rug or that before that. It doesn't have to go in that exact order, but I chose an order that I knew would lead to a really good outcome, especially for someone who just wasn't sure where to go.
I
So that's how we came up with it.
I want to get into that more. And I love how in this, and we are going to get into that more, but I love how in this, my gosh, it's a Wednesday, my brain's not working. Um, the form that you filled out, you said, my first book. And I thought to myself when I read that, I'm like, that's a very intentional
Hmm.
phrasing there, right? And it's going to be released in early February.
Yes, any
So
day now.
any day now. And we're going to talk about some of the contents of the book when we get back, and you're going to share some tips. And then, yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a
Sounds
second.
good.
Partner today with CK Sims and Poddin My Noggin to get in front of an audience that cares. You will be supporting mental health stories, tales of resilience, and uplifting content, aligning your brand with bringing goodness, authenticity, and kindness front and center. This spot could be yours. Do you have a story of struggle and resilience? One that you want to share with others and possibly help someone through their own struggles? Find the link in the show description and fill out the guest form today.
Welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we were talking, and we still are, to Amy Barrickman,
Hello again.
the new author of her first book,
Yes.
putting it out there in the universe, The Living Room Design Plan. And so you had mentioned here that really like your inspiration for all of this came from some postpartum depression and anxiety and just sort of mental health struggles in a period of time that you were going
Yes.
through, and recognizing the impact a room can have on somebody or what your house looks like, and then also recognizing the gap that exists for people just not understanding all the different sort of little things that you can think about in creating that special room. So you wrote this book.
Yes.
Now,
It's an overwhelming process for most people, including me, by the way. I mean, I now have gone through it enough to know where to go, but it can be overwhelming, especially the internet is such a gift, but
mm,
also we have so many choices, too many choices,
too
really.
many choices. Well, I love that you said that because I am of this belief that we have far too many choices. But I'm also of the, I guess, belief that it's catch 22 really. I the type of person that will dig my heels in, more so in my 30s and 40s. Whereas I will have a vision of a room, something about that room, and then I will decide I'm going to do it. But I will not purchase anything. I will not do anything with that room until I have found the star piece, which we had talked about, if you will.
Hmm.
And if I can't find the star piece, then the design does not proceed. This is where I am at in life. So like this particular living room, these massive bookshelves that go from floor to ceiling in a corner, because it's a very open, sort of narrow living room. This corner and then my couch over there were all a part of a design that I had envisioned. I purchased nothing until I could have it all ready to go. And then
Wow.
it was like friends and family, let's go. We're having a putting together of things weekend.
Love it.
Make it happen. So the book is called The Living Room Design Plan. Why the living room specifically?
That is a great question. I knew early on that I wanted to focus on one room at a time. And I selected the living room because most, we have them. We're all
Yeah,
living somewhere.
this
Um,
is true.
but the first couple publishers that I talked to were not interested in a book just about one room at a time. They really wanted me to expand on the whole house. And I found that really overwhelming. And I thought, if
Yeah.
I find it overwhelming, then how overwhelming is it for the reader? I just don't think that that's the way to do it. Also, in my design practice, I try not to do it that way. I like to go one room at a time because going one room at a time gives you power. It really
Mhm.
gives you power with your budget, it gives you power with your decision making, and it gives you power with the other people that you live with because you're able to show them this is the result. Whereas when we go throughout the whole house, we kind of some things come together, but a lot of people end up living in partially finished spaces because they've gotten kind of the furniture they need and they just haven't really had the focus. So,
Well, I
not
still,
everyone does what you do, which is smart and really creating your whole plan before purchasing. It's really common they buy the sofa and then they
Mhm.
haven't really thought through all the things, that's normal to do. But my hope is that with this book I'll help people do what you've already done instinctually, which is really think through your whole plan, know where you're going with it so that you can buy each piece with confidence knowing it's going to work.
Well, and what I like about the way you're approaching this too is like I feel like the publishers are like we're thinking let's get a coffee table book of
Mhm.
design together, and you're like no,
No,
we're
it's
going
really
to
not.
do room by room, and there's going to be a methodology applied, tips and tricks, and that sort of thing. And you're also correct. Like when you pick up a book that's like designing that's a lot. That's a
It's
like
a lot.
you know what I mean? It is a lot to think about and then to have access to in the same moment. So I like this idea that we're going room by room. And yes, so the living room is obviously something that everybody has.
It's a great
Some
place to start.
great place to start, and some, um, it depends on who you are as a person too. Like what kind of living room you want, and
Mhm.
what's the primary function? Is it to host? Is it to be alone and just veg? Whatever. This is
Yes.
TV.
I'm so
So
glad you brought that up because that's really how I start the process with clients and in the book, which is let's really take inventory of how you currently use this space and how you'd like to use this space. A lot of people end up using a space just because of the way it's laid out or what they have in there, but they might actually want to use it a different way. So this allows you to really sit down and think about all those possibilities and figure out, do I want to be able to host book club every month? Because then I need a lot more seating than if I'm just having my family watch TV here or play games or whatever it may be. So that is a big section that we start with. And again, hopefully to encourage people to really think through that whole plan before we start buying things, know where everything will go. Have a plan.
okay, so let's get into it a little bit. So we got the
Yeah.
living room design plan. If someone were to come to Amy Barrickman or just Barrickman Design, I think is how what
Hmm.
your company's called, right? So and they said, I have a living room and I hate it, right? It doesn't feel warm, doesn't feel cozy, the space is off, all of these things. I need help. My husband or my wife is useless. Please help me. Or I'm single and I just want to make the most of my space.
Yes.
What would you do to start? And we did just sort of talk about what your
Yeah.
first sort of step is, but walk us
Well,
through that.
that's absolute. The first thing I do is I imagine all the possibilities. So for with when I'm working with a client, that ends up being a long string of questions. Who's using this room? What time of day are you using it? I want to think about what's outside the room. Is there a beautiful view out that window, or is it a street facing window that we want to take away from? So I'm going to ask all those questions. And then we're going to start by putting together some ideas because until we have a loose concept of what the room should look like, we really can't buy anything.
Mhm.
So one of the chapters in the book is about putting together a mood board. So it's finding all the things. So it's what you've been doing in your head for years.
Yeah.
It's finding that thing that's the star and then matching it up with some things you like. So perhaps we've determined that you really like sofas that have a bench cushion and a wide seat. Taking some pictures of those, matching it up with your star, and going through this process through all the different types of things that will go in the room until we create this board, which I recommend doing on just old, foam core board, glue
Mhm.
gun or glue stick, tape, whatever it may be. Putting all these things in front of your eyes allows you to know with confidence that your room will come together and it will all be cohesive. So we go through that whole process and then we start ordering. Of course, we have to measure, we have to do all the things, but the point is we do all of those things first before we get to the ordering. We have the homework so that when we do get to the ordering, as sometimes you still feel hesitant, but a lot of people feel extreme anxiety over ordering a big piece of furniture. And I get that. It's a commitment.
It is,
But
yes.
you will have done all this work. You've already been thinking about it. You know what your plan is. You know what furniture fits that you can order with confidence once you've done all that homework.
So, okay, so from your perspective, do you go in the home?
When I'm working with clients, I like to go in the home. I like to see the space in person. I've tried it remotely a few times and I just couldn't get quite the same feeling, right? Because there's something about being in a space, you get a feeling about it.
Oh,
But so
yeah,
I
for
like
sure.
to go in, right? And I like to go in, I like to meet, I like to not just know the client, but I want to know everything about that family. I want to know if the son wants to build a fort in there. I want to know if the grandfather comes over. Like, I like to really get in all those nitty gritty details. And it's funny because in the book, I say one of the things that you have as the person doing this over any designer is you know yourself the best.
It's
I spend
true.
all this time asking questions. You don't
You're
need to ask
designing
questions.
not simply for aesthetic, you're designing for aesthetic functionality and
Right.
the individual.
Right. Because I feel and I've probably had a couple projects early on where you design something and you think it's going to look a certain way and it does. But then life happens, right? And then I'm like, "Oh, I could have planned for that. If I had just planned for that, this room would look great even when life happens." Of course, things aren't always going to be perfect, but if I build in certain storage that I know that that kid is going to need for X, Y, and Z, or if here's a perfect example. I had a client once, love them. They had a daughter that was a really, really good cellist, but that cello was showing up all over my room, and the cello and the and the accessories and the music. So I realized we need a dedicated music space. We need a stand that is permanent, that looks beautiful in the room. We need a place to keep sheet music. We need a place for the metronome. All those things so that it's not like, oh, here's my beautiful room. Oh, and then here's all the junk that goes along with the hobby, right?
Yeah.
So by doing that, by you thinking through your stuff as a listener, by you thinking through how you use it, you can tackle a lot of those problems before they happen because you're going to tackle them through the design process.
I love this. There's so much thought that
Great.
goes into it. And it resonates with me as well, right? So it's just space, using space. Some people enjoy knickknacks,
Mhm.
whereas I like knickknacks, but they have to be appropriately placed and all of those things. And
I'm with you on
um,
that one.
yeah, it's like I have lots of cute little things around. I love owls.
Love
I
that.
own many little owls, but they go in a specific place and that's where they're going to stay. Um,
And we give them more
so
honor if we give them a space because when we just have a surface with a bunch of little things on it, we're not honoring the things we love. But if
I,
they're on a shelf and they're displayed and it's not all clutter around it, like the way you have beautiful built-ins in the background, you're honoring them. You're really
yeah,
making them a special part of your room. And then it doesn't even matter what it is at that point because it feels so special. It's going to look great.
yeah, it could be whatever it is. It could be anything for you, something that's sentimental or whatever. When I
Exactly.
when I had this place designed in my head, I knew that I wanted life over here. And that was really important to me, is to have life around this section. And I lived here for, I think, 2.5 years with this design in my mind before I was like ready to commit and like make it happen. And it's a longer, narrow living room. So the living room, it's kind of almost like two rooms, if you will.
Yes.
But I wanted to create something that was going to be cohesive to flow together to make it seem more like a great room, if you will.
Love it.
So, and I did achieve that. So,
And that's a
um,
common problem people have are these long, skinny living rooms because it's not intuitive to do what you've done to make it, it has to flow. And what you're really doing is you're making two separate areas. Sometimes I make it two different seating areas if we need to seat a lot of people, or sometimes we have a game table section. We do lots of different ways to do it, but it's really common. It's surprisingly common. Long, skinny living rooms. I'm sure there are listeners who are like, yes, I don't know what to do with my long, skinny living room.
well, I
It's a
remember
good problem to have, though.
it is to have a home period, absolutely, and to
Yes.
be housed, all of those things. I remember though that I knew the people who lived here before, and the way their placement of furniture was so restrictive in this space. I couldn't help but feel like the walls were closing in on me in that type of environment. So when I took over and moved in, I was like, no, we're gonna do something different. But like I said, we waited a really long time until I could get exactly what it was I wanted to make sure that I could create the space that I had in my mind.
Excuse me.
Um, and I have a crazy imagination, so sometimes that's very difficult. So barrickmandesign.com. So
Barrickman Design.
BARRICKMAN design. Yes, .com.
Yes, that's our website. And on there, you can get a link to the book, which is the Living Room Design Formula. I think we've actually changed slightly the name since you and I first um, touch base. It's the Living Room Design Formula. And there's a website, lrdesignformula.com. So LR for living room, designformula.com. You can go to that and you can get info about the book. And very soon you'll be able to link right to the book. But also, I have one other thing that I bet you'll really appreciate because I could see you coming up with this on your own, which is a gallery wall makes such a difference in a house. A lot of people have a long wall that's blank that they just don't know what to do with. And a lot of people are at a loss for how to put that together. So I have a free PDF that you can download. It's on gallerywalltips.com. That's gallerywalltips.com, and it will
Yes.
show you exactly how to hang a gallery wall. It's a really reasonably priced thing to do to create a huge impact, artistic look in your home. And it talks about how to select photos. Not all should be portraits, some should be maybe a landscape or something you love, like a guitar or an owl or whatever it may be. It shows you how to put together a cool artistic thing. I bet you already have a gallery wall in your house.
I do in my
I
kitchen.
knew
There's just a lot of wall space where there was nothing to do other than put. I didn't call it a gallery wall. Or,
it. You do
I
now.
didn't have a name for it. I do now. I didn't have a name for it, but it's a grouping of 6 photos, and they're different sizes, but the pairs are there's a pair of each size. So the way I've placed them creates this sort of elongated and closes the space in
Love
and
it.
makes it look cozy. So barrickmandesign.com, you got the book there, you have media. You can also, oh, you're on TV. Are you on TV? Is this what I'm seeing here right
I
now?
am. Yes, I appear on QVC regularly. I'm the on-camera design expert there. So for various
Y'all,
products, I get to go on. I love it. So fun.
that is very cool. I hadn't clicked the media one before. So you're just out there doing your thing, creating
Doing a
joy,
thing.
and
I
and
hope.
and, and you. So your book is coming out soon, any day.
Literally, I mean, I'm literally just waiting on someone to sign off on something. So, yes,
Perfect.
maybe by
Now
the time this airs.
I don't want to. There's seems to be an offer on your page. Am I permitted to speak about it?
Well, yes, we can. I don't know if it will still be available, but I
Oh,
was,
cool, because
for
it's
a
going to
period
be
of
in March.
time, I'm sending out a bunch of free books because we are looking for people who are interested in reading a copy and leaving a review. I want to get a lot of reviews up there for my
I just reserved
feedback.
my spot. And also, if you send me a book, I
Oh, I
will not
will.
only review it, it will live on my
Love
backdrop
it.
for the remainder of the year.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. Well, you're just gonna
uh,
have to send me the address to send that to.
I will. So I've reviewed these books so far this year. Um,
Excellent.
and I have more on the way. So I love to read. This is what this space was about, right? Creating my version of a mini library.
Love it.
And so when I'm not hosting a podcast, this is where I go to curl up with the quilts that I've
Mm.
made. You know, we do
Oh, love.
for promotion. We started this year to make quilts. So we're currently running the Women's History Month quilts, which is
Oh,
what you can
very
see right there.
cool.
And it's to sort of drum up, subscribers, but like engagement and that sort of thing. And last month we did a Valentine's Day quilt for the month of February. Um,
Yes.
we're going to be, it will, we'll have drawn the winner on the 28th that,
Ooh,
just
exciting.
March 1st now, I think, when this episode's coming out. So I'm starting to keep track of everything. So yeah, I don't even know what my point was anymore. But yes, you live on the
I would love to live on your shelf, and I love that your shelves say so much about you. They're beautiful, they're joyous. I love that it says good mood right next to you because that's how I feel talking with you. It's like
well,
so
good.
perfect. I love it.
This is a wonderful book, actually. A life-changing book by another
Mm.
person that I interviewed. His name is Matt O'Neill.
Oh,
So
excellent. I
I would
heard the pizza
recommend that.
episode. I need to get up on the good mood
Yeah,
revolution.
the no, the pizza episode. I love that
Loved
as
it.
well. There's so many great things. But I feel like you're gonna I'm gonna love having you up here on this, and I'm gonna write the review, but I'll also talk about it on the podcast at another
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
um, to encapsulate this. And it's going to be available in bookstores, online,
Hmm.
everywhere essentially.
Everywhere.
You've got your gallery wall tips and tricks free PDF online, which is amazing. There's media. You're out there spreading joy. And what's the goal? So I just want to ask now. So it's a CK Sims Pod My Noggin exclusive. What's the name of your next book potentially going to be?
Well, the idea is that we'll continue the series. So I actually have already been making notes on the dining room design formula, but now I'm kind of feeling I have a friend who is doing a nursery, so I kind of want to help him with that. So I might
Ooh,
go the nursery design formula. We'll see. It's
I
so
really
exciting to
like
me
that.
to address each room. It is so fun,
But and you have, I mean, the applications are endless as well, right? Because like a nursery, which
right?
everybody wants to have a beautiful nursery when they're having children.
Yes. And I love
Um,
that there's a deadline,
well, this applies, fair. That's fair, right? You're gonna have to get this done perfect.
right? We have
Everyone needs a
however
little
many
bit of
months.
time. Yeah. Well, honestly, I think that you are radiant in how
Thank
you
you.
present yourself and how you present your material. I'm looking forward to reading the book. I do love to read. Maybe I will learn a bunch of new. I'm pretty certain I will learn a bunch of new things. And then you'll probably just get a random message from me being like, "Oh my God, never thought about that."
Please. But also I want feedback because it comes naturally to some people. So I I'm avail I would love to hear whatever you think.
Well, you will get that feedback, and I will tell you whether it's in an
Good.
email or I'm like, okay, hop on a call with me and let's talk it out. Like, let's film another
Fantastic.
episode. Like something like that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I love to read, and I will give you feedback on. And I'm honest, just as an FYI. I haven't
Great.
had to give anybody a really negative review ever, luckily, but I will always be honest but do so with kindness, if that makes sense.
Right. I think that is such a great way to be because if you're not, then the people you love can't really trust you, right?
True.
So
That's
I
true.
think it's important to, with love, say all the things you like about something. And then if you see something that can help them, great, let's share that. And then maybe share, what they say, the compliment sandwich. Share another thing you love.
Well, I will tell you actually, I this is a great book as well, The Maniac with No Knees, and it was
Ooh,
my last podcast before filming this one. And there's a part about the book that I was disappointed in that I shared with him because that was a conversation.
great.
But
Yeah,
I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed his story. I enjoyed his vulnerability. There's so many wonderful things about the book and his vulnerability in sharing that my disappointment was just my reflection in that. So I could share that with him and have that experience, but it wasn't inflammatory or rude because I
right.
don't believe in being that human being ever, right?
Right. There's no point in doing that. There's no point unless it can help someone. And when you write a book, you're kind of putting yourself out there. And
Absolutely.
I know I have great information that's going to be really helpful to people. And certainly if those people are reading it and they're like, I wish you talked more about this, or I didn't spend as much time on this, I would love to know that because I want to be able to apply that information to future generations
Well,
of this book and future books.
that's just it, right?
Yeah.
I think um, I model myself after how I like to be treated. So for me, when I'm under someone's, leadership or whatever the situation is, if I'm doing something that is not helping myself or is not helping others or is perceived as being unkind or whatever, I want to know. Tell me.
Mhm.
Like, and you can be brutally honest. You don't even have to be kind about it. You can just be like, TK, you suck. Get it together.
I
And
would
I'm
be
like,
shocked if anyone ever feels that way about you.
well,
I would be
I
really
don't know.
shocked.
I have to be the monster in someone's story. That's just how life works, right?
I don't know. You give off a very loving vibe. Look, none of us are perfect, of course. I'm sure we've all
Absolutely
done
not.
things that aren't the best, but I would be shocked if you're anyone's monster. Maybe they're maybe from time to time a cockroach or something.
There we go. That's
But
I
definitely
like
not a monster.
that.
I was just trying to think
I've
of
got to
something like
drink.
a little annoyance.
what's weird is I think I'm like, I'd rather have a monster than a
You know
cockroach.
what? After I said, I was like, cockroach sounds awful. Like, I would not want to have a cockroach infestation. Maybe let's say like a one spider. It's like
There we
one
go.
little spider. Like, it's okay. Sometime it wasn't the best, but I would be shocked if you're anyone's monster. That would be very surprising. I can
I
just
mean, I
tell.
don't actively know of anyone per se, but I would never say let myself think that I don't get perceived in a specific way by people because we can't control that.
Right. We
Sometimes,
can't control that. And
so
other people's
yeah.
opinions of us are not our business.
Well, there's this as well, right? I always think of it like this: be focused on your brand, not your reputation. Because I know
I
my
like that.
brand is kindness. My
Hmm.
reputation is whatever anybody else perceives that to be,
Right.
right? I have no control over
Right. I
it.
love that.
Amy, you have been a tremendous guest.
Oh, you are a
Um,
pleasure to chat with. I love talking with you.
well, ditto, and I like this very much. People at home, barrickmandesign.com. Look out for the living room design formula.
Yes,
Okay.
lrdesignformula.com will get you there.
And then you can also check out Amy on her media page where she's in QVC, you said, correct? I got that right?
Yeah, I'm on QVC.
QVC,
Yes.
talking about some of her favorite products and things like that. Not only this though, like if you just go to like portfolio, you're gonna find your new like happy place because like I
Oh,
look at these designs and I'm like, oh God. And there's a kitchen in there. I have this obsession with blues and golds.
I
Like it's
love that is my favorite kitchen.
yeah, and when I saw that kitchen,
Do
I
you see
thought
that
I was
backsplash? It's a for those who are listening, it is an ombre backsplash. It goes from a blue to a white in all these tiny, amazing, beautiful mosaic pieces, and then we added a brass piece, and it's just one of my favorite things that I ever did. And when we first got the quote for it, I was like, oh my gosh, they're never gonna go for it. But they
but
did. They
it
went for
looked
it. They
but see,
appreciated it.
that makes me happy that they went for it, right? Because
Me
sometimes
too.
in when we're thinking about our spaces, we tend to, and not me, I'm a special breed. I just like this is crazy, and then I'm gonna wait and bring it all together. But we tend to think small,
Hmm.
but just even the smallest details sometimes can completely change the full effect of a room. So
Right.
now I'm
And
super excited about reading your
if
book.
it's your star, that's a place to invest because it will make the whole space feel amazing.
Absolutely. So until next time, because I'm sure we'll talk again
Yes.
soon. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Everyone, look out for the living room design formula. Make sure, is it available for pre order yet?
It's going to become available for pre-order in one format. So let's just say by the time this airs, they'll be able to get it both. They'll be able to get a format in pre-order, but they'll also be able to order the paperback.
Okay, perfect. All right. So the air date of this is March 1st, if I'm not wrong. So if you're watching this on March 1st, you can go get the book now, is essentially
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Perfect. And you can also waste no time and get the gallery wall tips and tricks PDF that's available for download on the website. Check out all the media. And then what you're in Philadelphia, correct?
That's right.
And if you're in the Philadelphia area, you can actually meet her in person by clicking on services and sending a request. So I wish you the very best in your future endeavors. I will want to
Likewise.
be looking out for each of the iterations of this series. The nursery just sounds so cute to me and
That'd be
wonderful.
fun. It would be so fun.
Um, but yes, thank you for being here today. And to everyone at home, until next time, get out there and live your wildest dreams.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.